Frode, I cannot hear you. You're on mute. You're on mute, Frode.
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, not anymore. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it that? Okay. I'm using my iPhone's connection on my laptop, so the connection's a bit slow for me, but I can hear you and see you well.
Let me turn off my video then. Hey, so Stan's not able to make it. Alexander's not able to make it. I was hoping to be able to present.
Give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I still need to try something else. Sorry, 1 sec.
Frode.
Okay, very good. I'm using the Starbucks Wi-Fi now.
It does sound a little bit better.
At least it's a little more stable, but I will mute because it's very loud here when I'm not talking.
Well, maybe this is not going to be a very quick call because I was hoping to be able to go over the ecosystem map that I had drew up. Hey, Alexander just said, hang on, I'm responding to. Looks like he may join us. He said his other meeting in Argentina won't start for another 40 minutes. So we'll see how much he can participate. Did you see my email I sent around about
I saw that, and also no, not email.
I sent the diagram. I also posted it in Skype.
Yes, I saw that one.
And it's incomplete. You can probably tell what item is incomplete in it, but I've actually been working on it since. And I'm curious about your level of interest in it because Wednesdays is supposed to be SAM driven and about collaborology plus. So that's why I wanted to take this opportunity to map out all the things that I've been thinking about. But we'll see if there's interest.
Yeah, I would absolutely think that's a good idea to do that. And I can see you easily, so my internet connection is very good downstream.
Okay,
so
great.
If you want to share a screen, yeah, here's Alexander, that's cool.
Yeah, let me share a screen here. Can you see my screen?
I can, but unfortunately there's a big Alexander in the middle of it.
Unfortunately.
Hi, Alexander. No. Fortunately, sorry, it's bad connection. Good to see you again.
Right. Yeah, I love it. Okay.
Alexander, I can basically see your beard. I can't see your eyes.
I'm working on it. I disconnected here. Hang on a second. Okay, so, Brig, I need to get this. This is like the Zoom. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, Sam's screen. Okay. I can draw on your screen? Really? Can I do this? Can I highlight something? Look at that. I'm just doing something. Okay, sorry. Okay, here we are. You got my beard. Let me get things a little bit better here. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, see, unlike mine, your beard is coiffed.
Yes, but you have a real beard. I have a little. I mean, you have a lousy beard.
That's what I'm going for, you know, that old touchy wannabe look.
You're going for it and you got it. I, on the other hand, am just, I started trying to do what you do with like a serious, beard, and it just was too gray. And I'm not going to start. I mean, just like it kept going and getting grayer and grayer. I'm like, I forget that.
Yeah, it's surprising. The head hair, my the hair coming out of the top of my head is still black, but the stuff coming out the side of my face and the bottom of my face seems to be white. So I don't get that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think in theory, the same would be this for me. Of course, I don't have stuff coming out of the top of my head. But I think in theory, you know, it would be about the same. I'm still holding my computer here in my hand, which isn't good. I'm trying to figure out, where am I going to put this?
Meanwhile, we're talking about hair. Meanwhile, Frode is working on his muscles.
He's working on the muscles, is he?
That's right.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, you know, if you don't have brains, you need to do. Hi, he's here. I didn't know. Okay, that's good. Great.
Frode, meet my friend Alex&er.
That's all you needed to know. That's all you needed to see for today. It's for weaker men to their knees.
Hey, let's see it again. I missed it.
By force. By force. Okay, here we are.
I would if the lighting was better.
Yeah, what does it do to weaker women, Frode?
There are no such things.
Never mind.
I can't go into that on a call.
And there are no such things. Weaker
That's
women.
right. Women are goddesses.
Oh, you show off, Alex&er. But yes, there are no such things.
That's right. Hey, Alex&er, I know I sent around relatively late, about an hour or two ago, a quick draft diagram of an ecosystem of words that I like to spew from time to time. And they more or less map to a bunch of other ideas on which I have minor rants from time to time. And I've been continuing to work on it. So I am now going to share my screen and do the next version of that diagram, which actually has one more item which you may be able to pick out that was missing from the previous version.
I'm looking. Yeah, community of impact. Wait a minute, this is different. This is substantially different.
Yes.
Manual annotation is there. Community of impact is there. And then you have the WYSIWYG.
WYSIDO, yeah.
WYSIDO, sorry. Yeah, that's there. Yeah. Annotators, declare too. Okay, so and the manual annotations and the community of impact are new.
Yeah, and basically these scales are just arbitrary. I could have picked any kind of dimensions on this, but right now this is micro to macro and human system to tool system, just to give us a 2D space to talk about. But really the main point here is the thick lines. I wanted to indicate that the thick lines are connections between these things that I've been thinking about for quite a while. The thin lines are plausible lines that eventually could become thicker, but I haven't thought about them as much.
Okay,
but
that's not clear. There are only a fewer, because in your previous diagram, I think there are only thin lines, correct?
That is correct. You are very observant.
You switched around now, right?
That's right.
I like that. And the arrows do truly mean unidirectionality. It's not that it's thin lines going back or something like that. It is from here to there.
There's implied directionality, although I've not assigned deep meaning to them yet. In my mind, that there is some sort of sequencing or causality or influencing or impact that is implied by these thick lines, but I've not yet labeled them, and I've not yet been very systematic about that. So again, this is the culmination of work you've seen just after a couple of hours. So I apologize, it is only a draft, but hopefully one that kind of gives you a sense of what it is that I like to think about. And the next thing I would probably do is connect a lot of other things like polyscopy, like cell, like well-tribe, like liquid, like, other things in the, next outer ring of thinking, relative to me. So this is like my ring 0.
So this is from your perspective.
This is absolutely only from my perspective. This is the stuff that, I keep thinking about, and I have to keep writing about, and I have to keep diagramming about.
It's your sandbox. So what would you like? From Frode? I mean, not from me, because I don't have anything to offer you.
Actually, so Wednesdays is more about collaborology, and I, wanted to really give a sense that this all has been derived by looking at this human system, tool system spectrum of things. If I am to think about what I can possibly do, embracing Doug's ideas, it's really to try and think, okay, so what of the human system side didn't actually get manifested enough by Doug and his team? Only secondarily would I think, okay, so what could we take from Doug's work and extrapolate so that it is exciting in today's time frame? Okay, so the first point that I always like to think about is this bottom axis, this tool system, human system thing. So that's why I think the COI is top of mind for me. Collaborology is top of mind for me. The team formation, by that I am referring to the blog entry, a quick blog entry on the artifacts of team acceleration. And then this other thing I don't actually talk about very much called Tweech. Now, Tweech is a very low-tech suggestion or / protocol where we can say, create a set of a couple dozen tags. And these tags really reference stages of life. So for example, a tag could be 1YO, 2YO, 3IO, 4YO, etc. It could also read 20S, 30S, 40S, etc. And basically the intent is to say, what did I learn or what did I teach my kids at this stage of life? And if we each tweet about these things or post or Facebook or blog or whatever using these hashtags, then the theory is over even the space of a day or obviously, a much longer period would suffice as well, that if we got a lot of people doing this, we would very quickly end up with a lot of lessons learned that we could then use analytics on in order to really help each other with how we engage with our kids and how we engage with our own lives as we go through these stages of life. So that's just a very, very low-tech item that I just threw in there because I think it feeds this group pool of meaning from which a global sim could be created and from which we each are revealing our own Dictopedias and basically leading others into collaboration.
So it sounds like a Twitterized and historically searchable version of Khan Academy.
Yeah, except that I don't intend for it to stay in just its raw form with the raw hashtags. For example, 40 million people could be talking about at what stage they taught their kids to be diaper trained or potty trained, right? So some would be a 1, some would be a 2, some would be a 3, some would be a 4. And there'd be a spectrum of these kind of activities. And then you could really, really tell, hey, maybe, the 2 Sigma case is 2 years old, 1 month, plus or minus 4 months or whatever the heck that is, right? And you could then do those kind of analytics to then really, really go after how would you help, let's say, your daughter raise her child or my son raise his child. Likewise, if I'm only in my 30s and I see a bunch of stuff posted into 40S or 50S or 60S, these are things that people would learn in their 40s and 50s and 60s. That could be something that I would be able to start thinking about and start connecting with other people to say, hey, so what is this thing called menopause? Or what is this thing called midlife crisis or blah, 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 right? So I really want to be able to look backward as well as look forward and be able to share all of our life learnings, be it all these very hard lessons learned or whether it be simple memes that we encounter on Facebook.
And to what extent is it pull and to what extent is it push? In other words,
it's all push and it's eventually
search, if I have to search.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
Because
so
what I feel like with it is to be able to say, hey, I'm interested in the subject of menopause, whatever it is, and I like to, be informed. I like those who are doing things to come to the surface of my my Tweech radar display.
Yes, yes. Now, my hope is that with enough people really realizing the value of this, all the push would make the, let's say, custom request less necessary, but obviously still possible. So if we did took all of the push items and then did some analytics on them, and then somebody, whether it's Dr. Spock or whether it's, Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever, who wants to focus on a particular domain area, will then say, okay, of all the Twitch offerings in this hashtag or this domain, let me write up an ask or an about or a Wikipedia article. And that could then become relatively authoritative. So I'm just hoping to be able to use that to drive let's say the course of life in both senses of the word course.
Got it. Cool.
So that's Twitch. I've never actually introduced it before, but it's actually been on my list of things for years.
Pleased to meet you.
Pleased to meet you. The CCCs directly are derived from Collaborology. They obviously feed this identity infrastructure that I like to talk about. But they also, of course, feed collaboration, which leads to group community like the COI. CCCs also allow more formal collaboration in the notion of teams. So that's why I connected to both the COI as well as the teams. Sorry, I have to turn off an alarm here. Sorry about that. I'll be right back in about 10 seconds. Sorry, I'm back.
Good.
Anyway, I know I've been talking for a while. Any reactions before I go on?
Frode?
I would like to see author on there, of course, because I want you to be a part of it too.
Great. And let me put author on here. And let me do it thusly. So I can click, put author. And it is a tool, so I'm going to shove it over to the left side. And somewhere, it's in the personal space, so it's going to be relatively good. How about there? And
No. No.
Where do you want it?
You see, this is the interesting thing right here.
Yeah.
I would like it, the macro and micro, can you explain what you mean by that?
This is the, let's say, the community served or the community participating.
As in to create or to use?
Right now, I'm just saying participating, so either create or use. I've not made that distinction.
Because one of the key kind of questions here, because I really like the dimensions you have, is I would say that author is an example of something that's in the middle between tool and human system.
Okay.
Because if you don't write well, and if you don't follow the citation conventions and co-develop them, then absolutely, then it's just a tool. But then it's not very useful.
Yep.
So there has to be a community making it more useful like that. As far as micro, I have no idea. I hear what you're saying, but I'll trust your judgment for now.
Okay. So by the way, all of these tools require human system learning and evolution in order to use. Keep in mind something like Global Sim, nobody really knows how to use it right now, right? Likewise, the identity infrastructure. So I think all of these different tool items require that human system evolution as well. The comment that you made about author, I just wanted to say that. I mean, even Dictopedia, look at this, just agreeing that we can have multiple definitions of things that we would like to evolve together and then
yeah, no, I think this is a very useful exercise and a very useful diagram. I think that maybe what you've done there by changing the color, so the ones that are the lighter horrible color are basically only human system. Of course, they're supported by technology, but not by new technology. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Okay, so let me put author here, and you can then suggest some connections. I haven't done that yet myself, but clearly, Well Tribe, Cell, Polyscopy belong here as well. I might want to give it a different color for now until I think about it.
Well, definitely, Dictopedia has to be, the Dictopedia entries have to be accessible in Author, and I would be very happy if they were creatable in Author, obviously.
Ah, love it. Love it.
Makes sense.
Time browser, I want Author to be one of the places where you can read the transcripts.
Yep. So let me do this here. Connect this here. See,
Annotators. Is that the kind of time browser annotators as in AI annotators?
Yeah, so these are tool system annotators, and over here are the manual annotations. Right?
Well, that's a hugely important part of Author. I mean, what Timur and I are trying to do, we're trying to have document systems where we will throw huge sets of documents that we know are, for instance, written by someone who's depressed, see what comes out, and then when a teacher, it will then automatically have all the essays of all the students tagged as in these students seem to be depressed, for instance.
Yes.
So annotators are hugely important.
Yes. By the way, my son was involved in a sentiment analysis project at UC Santa Cruz just before he graduated. And he was doing analysis of millions or tens of millions of Reddit comments. So that was how they were extracting patterns.
That's very interesting indeed. Do you have any further comments on that?
Yeah, in fact, they were involved in a national, maybe even international competition in January of this year. UC Santa Cruz entered a team. I don't think they won, but I think they certainly had an interesting approach on things. So if you want to look at that project and how you extract let's say mood or sentiment out of text. My son could give you some pointers. I actually don't even have the details yet.
That's very cool. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So
obviously, Author is part of a DKR, so be nice. Give me a connection there too, please.
Yeah. So let me do this.
And then you're going to have to talk about the rest, what you think is appropriate, and explain so we understand what the other ones are, please.
Yes. So let me do that. Let me make this a nice Bezier curve. And give it a nice shape. Bring it over here. Make it not cross Dictopedia. I can make it prettier later. Okay. So some of the things here you've actually recognized from previous rants of mine. WYSIWYDO.
Can you remind us what WYSIWYDO and Global Viz is, please?
Yes. So WYSIWYDO is basically atomic action item tracking at the lowest level. By atomic, I really mean the most smallest scale interactions possible between two people or even one person. Okay. So this is either a personal action item tracking system, or it's a way for me to say, hey, Frode, will you send me your paper? And you saying, yes, I will. Okay, so this is what I see is what I do, or what you see is what you do. I can either do with a Y or an I. And this basically allows us to have visibility and transparency and shareability across my prioritized list of things I need to do. Now, what's interesting is now if this is shared with teams, now teams can actually say, hey, what are all the people in the team doing at this given moment? And is that the best thing they could be doing? Or it could also be saying, across my 17 different projects now, how much time do I want to spend on this one versus that one versus this one versus the other one? Okay. So WYSIWYDO is very atomic. So that's why I put it down here at the micro. The opposite is global SIP.
Hang on, before you go on to that one.
Yeah.
So I've also been thinking about this. Obviously, all of us have. So for your WYSIWYDO, are we talking about the kind of thing where Alexander may have an item in his to-do list? Over a chat, we decide that I'm going to do it. So he drags it into an email, and that's an active piece of code that now I can drag into my to-do list. But Alexander's to-do system knows that I have it. My system knows where it came from. So he can automatically...
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So every to-do item becomes a living, breathing piece of code. Okay, right. Good.
Basically, an action item becomes a real object, and it's authoritatively, located in a single place. Right. It's negotiated, it's requested, it's negotiated, it's executed, it's completed, it's accepted, it's recognized, it's compensated. All of those are states. of action items.
So we're talking about building an action item that can actually be so intelligent that it'll do itself at some point.
At some point, yes, but the whole notion that I built into this originally, by the way, Mike Hewitt brought this up in 2008, is this of configurable workflows. So not every action item, for example, requires a payment, right? Just, collaboration among people like friends doesn't necessarily require payment. But in a larger team or formal sense, it does. If I actually execute something for a contract, then I want to actually have it accepted, and upon acceptance, I can then bill, and upon billing, I can get paid. So this is like the fundamental aspect.
This is really, really important. One of the things I talked to Doug about was for his augment. What I said to him is that what you have here, Doug, is full grammar interaction, because you can say, do this with this and that way in augment and LS, right?
Yes.
Which is something we don't really have today.
Right.
And then we talked about, of course, if you add time to that, it becomes a cron job, or so now you're also saying it can be a to-do list. So we're talking about building more powerful command languages. That's the large size of it, right?
Well, whether or not it has a command language or let's say a GUI, that's.
I don't mean it like DOS command language. I'm just talking about a way to be able to string these things together, whether it's visual, oral, clicking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, inherent in this is patterns of action items. Like, for example, if I take out a project could involve a string of action items or a whole partially ordered set of action items. So, for example, I do step 1, I do step 3, I do step 4, and then at step 4, I could either go to 5A or 5B, and that is something which may already be defined. Like, for example, if I say, take out the trash, right? If you really look at the subcomponents, number 1, is the trash bag type? Number 2, do I know where the dumpster is? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's a very, very detailed version of it. But if you think on a more grander scale, if you think on a larger project such as write this paper for me, are the notes there? Are the citations there? Have all the authorities been contacted? Have I actually, got this all in some kind of referenceable state? Do I have an outline? Blah, blah, blah. So each of those can be strung together. So this notion of project built up upon action items and partially ordered trees of action items is also part of this idea.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really, really fundamental important thing. In my mind, as you know, the most fundamental part of the universe is not things, it's not information, it's interaction.
Yeah.
Right? So to build an interaction, I call it a command language. Please don't take too much color into that. However,
I like that. I'll just give you a hint. Of all of these projects, WYSIWYG dates back to pre-2008. Global Sim actually didn't get conceived until 2009.
You need to change the name of WYSIWYG. It's more powerful.
These are all working names, okay? I know these are not marketing names, okay? You would never go sell something like this.
But what we're going to have to do is just look into this and see where to start, because what you're talking about here is something like Adam Chire would be very familiar with, of course.
Yeah.
He's going to do his version of it. We need to try to do something open.
And by the way, action item tracking has been attempted probably thousands of times. And the problem is everybody takes a certain niche and tries to solve that problem. That's why there's things like Asana, there's things like, Trello, blah, 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 blah. If you take a systemic view and say that the kind of collaboration we have to be able to support have to scale all the way up to global sim level, have to scale all the way up to humongous projects, then you really understand the architectural and design challenges for being able to do these kind of things, okay?
You just faded out, Sam.
Yeah, sorry?
You just faded out.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I should get closer to the microphone. Is this better?
Much better. Much better.
Anyway, I was talking about scale. I was talking about conceiving a WYSIWYG system, already knowing that strategically you have to support things at a global sim or planetary scale. Okay. And that presents design challenges that I would argue most other action item tracking attempts have not even tried to capture. And now if you fold in things like differences in terms and differences in negotiation strategy, boy, that's another whole layer of complexity. Anyway, enough on WYSIWYG. Okay. Now the other thing you asked about was Global Viz. Global Viz is the placeholder, the tool that really is part of this two-part rant that I sometimes give, which is there is knowledge, but then when you want to present some knowledge to someone, you don't just say, here's the knowledge, right? You actually most effectively would design a tour or design a course or design a path or at least a sequence of links that say, given your background and what I know about you and what you understand, here are the links or here is the sequence of ideas that would most effectively convey this knowledge to you. And like I say, if I was to present this to my 12-year-old daughter, I would use one set of links or one navigation or one tour. But if I was to present something to Alex&er, I would probably use a different one, right? I'd include a lot more introductory items in Veronica's case, probably smaller words, probably less text. And in Alex&er's case, I could reference more academic papers, I could reference more detailed rational logic, et cetera, et cetera. So Global Viz is the thing that takes filmography, psychology, people's knowledge, their knowledge modeling, and says, given this knowledge, how do I best present it to that audience? So that's Global Viz.
Right.
Annotators, you understand. Wikipedia, I think we've talked about before. Time browser, of course, you understand. DKR2, you understand. The identity infrastructure is probably something I have not spoken a lot about, but it's what's available if we all, let's say you and I and others in this small community of ours have been using CCCs now for a few years. So we each have a few dozen of these. All of which then becomes part of your identity, but in addition to that, your identity includes more abstract things, like how you want to be contacted, what tools do you prefer to use? What are your main interests, in the abstract, separate from the CCCs? So there's a whole notion of identity that really becomes one's proxy. Mm-hmm. So if you talk about the Internet of Things, I really think we need an Internet of People in addition to that. And these objects become the fundamental objects in the Internet of People. And that becomes the identity infrastructure. So anyway, this is the first cut. I'm trying to put out all these, yeah?
What I would recommend is some kind of overlay on this. It would be so helpful for the Amigos group in general to work on this. I'd like to see, maybe it's coded with the colors, or maybe it's coded in terms of spectrum on the tool system, more probably on that dimension than on the micro to macro, where we overlay our domains. So Frode was just mentioning the kind of things that he is working on, what an author is, and the coding, et cetera, et cetera. So right now we're looking at the tools and the tool systems. And we're also looking at the human systems that come out of this and the socio-technical systems in that sense. But I would like to see more kind of like domains. Maybe we draw dotted lines, and we would, this would be the domain of engagement and expertise, if you will, and also focus of each of us. Because I am not going to be working on the area down at WYSIWYDO. Was that what I pronounced it? Sorry. I'm not going to, yeah, I won't be working there because I just don't have the competencies for that. I will be working on things towards the community of impact and the collaborology and maybe the CCCs, etc. So drawing some kind of like domain bubbles, and we'll see where we overlap. And I would think that would make a lot of sense for the kind of conversation that recently we've had with Dino, for example, where it's been like, well, he's wanting to be doing certain things. I think Dino also has a couple of domains, and he would be able to say, I'm now working in the forefront on the corner. My domain is, the top of the mountain, and I want to lay this out, and I want to set it. And then at other times, he can deal with the coding as well. And so maybe then another time there's another focus, and we can therefore structure our conversation name. We're working in this domain now. who's here? And then if Dino is also there, we can say, but Dino, right now we're not talking about top of the mountain kind of stuff. We're doing another domain. You see, that's over here. So you need to leave that discourse aside so that we can focus on this stuff here. And I think that could lend us with greater ability to structure our own conversations.
That is an excellent suggestion. Basically mapping out, the possibilities and then focusing, let's say Wednesdays on this, Thursdays on that, Fridays on this, Mondays on that. That's an excellent way to indicate it. And also, by the way, as part of identity infrastructure, what you're saying is, if I can say, here's where I'm working right now, that's part of my identity, right? And we as a group could have an identity as well. As you say, this collaborative COI and CCCs could be one topic that we take on for Thursdays. Mondays and Tuesdays, Frode and I have been working on time browser annotators and DKR2 and author, right? So that whole arc right there, we can actually map out and indicate to people. But when we indicate that, then the connections, the closely connected boxes could potentially be affected. So that's another good way to do the mapping of our conversations. So I like the ideas, Alexander. Thank you.
Okay, great. Sorry, for some reason I got disconnected, but I'm back and I heard both.
Yes.
All right. First of all, a comment. Polyscopy. The last conversation I had with Dino was quite good because I tore things apart and I asked him very rigorous questions. For once, he was actually ready to answer that, so that was good. I believe a lot of this can really contribute to the polyscopic process. So I look forward to having that discussion, listening to the two of you. Secondly, we need to start building something, anything. So actually, first of all, Alexander, at work, are you a Windows or Mac user?
Mac.
Well, send me your UIUD then, for crying out loud.
Okay.
If you go under the Apple menu, about this machine, system report, and then you copy it and please send it to me. Anyway, that's a bit of a detail, but for Time Browser, I really think we need to decide on a minimally viable product while we have this diagram open, because even though we're not going to be able to support WYSIWYDO kind of stuff, it needs to be designed with that in mind.
Yes.
In two ways, both be able to reference a piece of audio or text, but also I want to be able to be recorded and then, like you can say, hey Siri, I want to be able to say, hey, Time Browser, the last minute was really important. So the system understands, yet another layer of that kind of stuff, right?
Yes, perfect. Imagine an annotator that goes through and picks out action items, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's got to be the manual annotation later. There's going to be your own manual annotation. There's got to be other people's doing manual annotation and at the time annotate. So we need to give this damn thing a name, like Siri or something as well. However, Sam, we need to focus on making a really crude time browser. We just have to do it.
Well, I did take the action item to actually come up with my draft of the minimum viable product and put it into some kind of a tool. And I was going to do that for next DKR meeting. So please recall, I did do that. I took that action item.
Right, because we do have the blog now. We have to go through your CCC stuff. Right. Oh, sorry, artifacts first. All right, sorry, that was that.
No, that's good. In fact, I love the comments and remarks and suggestions that are coming out just by being able to have this diagram. So I'm not expecting the quality of feedback that I'm getting right now. So I'm really happy. Alexander, I know you got to go at .45. Is that true?
Exactly. I was just about to say about 3 minutes left if they come on time. But that's when they said that they would be here, 1:45. Okay.
Then I have actually accomplished what I wanted to do, which is lay out, this is my universe of focus, in addition to all the connections with all of the projects that each of us, meaning not me, is involved with. And I want to find those connections and I want to put them in here. So thank you, Frode, for putting author on the map. I'm going to put Polyscopy on the map. I'm going to put Cell and WellTribe on the map. But Frode, one of the things I've wanted to do for quite a while on Thursdays is to map the COI, CCC, Collaborology, identity infrastructure, team formation things into a Cell or a WellTribe conversation. And I've really looked forward to that, and I still look forward to that.
Can I mention, because I'm not sure if I'm hearing people out there going to be coming, but
Okay.
I mentioned a couple more things you may want to put. Okay, so you got CEL, the Community of Evolutionary Learning Labs, and that's directly linked to the Global Evolution Futures Forum, right? So that's all,
right.
That's Pavel, but I put that as a separate initiative and related. Then you have the SET-SIG, the Curating Emergence for Thrivability Systemic Inquiry Group, the SET-SIG.
Yep.
And that's related, of course, I don't know if you want to put it or not, but that's part of the ISSS.
Yes.
Right? That's its paternal, it's paternal housing. Then there is in the CEL, we are looking at the particular doctoral program on leadership and systemic innovation as a node in the CEL. Because we're looking at experimenting with a real world kind of living learning program, and that's what the doctoral program is. So you may want to, doctoral program on systemic innovation. There's that. I'm looking at a list I have here on the board. CEL, SET-SIG, and then maybe one other thing is the Center for Leadership and Systemic Innovation is CLASSI, C-L, small a, and then capital S-I again. It's capital C, capital L, small a, capital S-I, which is the Center for Leadership and Systemic Innovation, something that Gavin Peacock is working very strongly on. He's really the motor behind getting this kind of thing going. Seeking to get this established now at the University of Oslo, and possibly here. We're being a little slower to pick it up here at the university. I'm pushing it, but the bureaucracy is tight. But the idea is having a kind of a living learning lab, this Center for Leadership and Systemic Inquiry, where we experiment. It's what Dino often talks about, and when he's grasping at Doug's framing of a systems lab, a living systems lab. That's what CLASSI is supposed to be about. So those are a couple other things to pop in there, right? Let's see, that covers it. Yeah.
Great.
And that's related to ITBA, right? So the doctor program, CLASSI, are both under the Buenos Aires Institute of Technology, ITBA, right? Just so you know.
Alexander, just to be really annoying, do you have Liquid running on your machine?
I do. I haven't run it. I have it on both my iPad, which is what I'm talking to you on at the moment, and my failing Mac.
No. You don't have it on your iPad. It's not an iPad. Author is on your iPad.
Author's on my iPad.
Yeah, the difference is, and the reason I'm bringing it in, first of all, Sam, please add Liquid, and now I'll explain why. Liquid is in Doug's world, you have the little toolbar at the top, right, to enter stuff to what happens below in NLS.
Liquid info, I have it right here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Liquid is essentially...
8.2.
What's that?
8.2.
That sounds about right, yeah. So the reason I'm mentioning it now is Liquid is supposed to be a command line for your computer. We can talk separately, Alexander, but if you change the keyboard shortcut to something more useful, you'll get more out of it. But it is a way on the Mac where you can hopefully... yeah, go on.
Okay, so great. That's a good distinction. I have Author on my iPad, which is what I'm right now interacting with you on. Sorry for the sounds. And on my computer, which is why I'm looking over here, I have Liquid. I could launch it now.
Yeah, please do. But the thing is, without going too specific into that tool, is on the Mac. Okay, so I believe interactivity is important. And I made that tool because I couldn't at the time build anything big. So Author works everywhere on the Mac. When you select any text and then you do a keyboard shortcut, I've made it Command Space. It's probably Command at by default for you. Then you get this bar that is very much inspired by the NLS bar that you have at the top of a document in NLS Augments. You can then, by keyboard shortcuts, do many commands such as searches, references, translations, conversions, and also sharing. So
So I love it. I can say because it shows the default browser. I'm just looking at my options and preferences. There isn't anything that allows me to put it into the menu bar or into my the hell's the other bar called? I have two bars. The one at the very top, the menu bar, and the other one is the launch pad sort of thing.
As long as Liquid is running, it will automatically be at the top of the screen. The icon is kind of a rectangle.
It would be cool if it was also in my menu bar that I could. I guess what you're suggesting is that it's always running.
Yes, because the point is, some of the whizzy-do type things, Liquid could be a launch way for, so that stuff would be everywhere. Right? Thank you, Sam. I see you there. For instance, what I have built now is that if you select text on the web, and then you do Liquid and you copy a citation, which is a really third of a second kind of a thing to do. If you then paste into author says, hang on, this looks like a citation. Do you want me to extract the data for you automatically, or what do you want me to do? Right, so it becomes a bridge between different applications.
But Liquid and author are just the same term for two different things, one running on my Mac and one running on iPad.
No, and I'm sorry for the problem with the names. Author is a word processor, Liquid is a tool.
Okay, I have author also on my Mac.
I will send you, most likely I will send you a version on Friday, because I just got your UIUD. So then, if you then, when you open author, there will be a user guide, and it shows you how to use Liquid in author.
Okay.
So it's a little messy.
It doesn't work on any other platform than it doesn't work on my iPad, for example, Liquid.
Unfortunately not, no.
Got it.
Right.
Okay,
right, so
sorry
yeah.
for the diversion here, but that's very helpful, and now I'm gonna have that here.
It's not a diversion. First of all, I'm extremely grateful for your testing and support and comments, and also I would really like Liquid to be linked to the Dictopedia, because Liquid could very easily ship with a link to Dictopedia search for whoever people you want it to be using, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, that was that, really.
That's helpful. Thank you.
So I am grateful beyond belief that the two of you have taken the patience to listen to me on this particular set of ideas. I really appreciate it. I've waited years to present these ideas to my amigos.
A sexto, sì. No, a settimo, in mi oficina.
I think we've lost him there.
Okay.
Okay, bueno, entonces espero aquí en mi oficina o lo voy a buscar.
Right. All right. Alexander is leaving us.
Okay.
Sam,
Okay.
it's great to be part of this dialogue.
Yeah.
Okay, gracias. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening, both of you.
Thank you. And they just called me. My meeting is just starting. So
Okay. Anyway, thank you for your patience for listening. This is a great start. I'm not at all done, of course. I will incorporate these suggestions. I'm hoping to be able to do this again next Wednesday.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Big hugs.
Excellent. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye for now.
Thanks.
Bye.
I'm grateful.
Bye-bye.